Hello, y'all. In today's episode, we're talking to the one and only Michael Lanning, aka my dad, the guy who taught me about meditation, and he learned it from a guru. He tells stories about following a guru and being in various bands in the 70s. Spoiler alert, he toured with Fleetwood Mac and was on George Harrison's label. It's fun. I'm your host, Lauren Leon.
And I'm Frank.
We are a married couple learning how to develop our own intuition. This is episode 31 of Clairvoyaging. Wayfeather Media presents Clairvoyaging.
Hello.
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 Happy day.
Happy day.
Oh, happy day. That reminds me, there was a little revival of Sister Act 2, and they sang Happy Day on a show recently. It really made me happy.
Lauren was sitting on the couch smiling, and I was like, what is this gospel music? And she's like, it's Sister Act. Don't worry about it.
Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. It's really kept me going. Anyway, if you're a Sister Act 2 fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's their 30th anniversary.
For the hordes of Sister Act fans out there.
Yeah. So, guys, there's not a lot of updates today. Just a reminder, if you give us a review on Apple Podcasts and send it over to us, we'll send you a promo pack.
Full of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I do have a quick call to action. I was thinking about it today.
Okay.
I didn't run this by Lauren. This is just off the cuff.
Go on.
I want to hear from the local Southern California intuitive and psychic people.
Oh.
Yeah. The old SoCal. There's life doesn't only exist on the internet. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I would even be open to doing an interview on your turf if you're interested.
Hey, bring this stuff. Do the recording there.
Yeah, I can do the recording there. So we'll come to you. So that's my quick call to action. Full disclosure, we're in the Tri-County area where we are personally based out of the beautiful Conejo Valley, but we are willing to travel. Don't you worry. So
have recording equipment. Will travel.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to just get right to it. It's a Father's Day episode.
It's the Father's Day special.
Yeah. So we talked to my dad, who has a lot of experience with meditation, and he was following a guru for several years. He wrote a lot of songs about spiritual stuff. So let's talk to Dad. Papa Mike, as he's affectionately known by. And stay tuned for the end of the episode, because we're going to play one of his songs to lead us out. So that's his band Jiva from when he was doing tours.
All right. Time to talk to Papa Mike.
We'd like to welcome my dad, Michael Lanning, on Clairvoyaging. Thank you for joining us, Papa Mike.
Thank you, guys. I
Papa
appreciate
Mike.
this. This may be fun, maybe a disaster. Who knows? I don't know. I did want to say, start out by saying one thing. I want to quote Walt Whitman. It's one of my favorite poets and somebody I really admire. And I quote Walt Whitman: "Do I contradict myself? Very well. I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes." Okay, we can start.
I love that.
I love that. Back in the 70s, you were in a band called Jiva, and your whole band, was it the whole band, started following the teachings of a guru, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that where you learned meditation and things like that?
It was all of that. Yes. His name at the time, we called him Satguru Maharaji or Maharaji. That was his nickname. But now he goes by Prem Rawat. Mm-hmm. He changed back to his real name because he was disturbed by the Hindu trappings. He didn't want any of that. He just wanted to teach meditation, and he approaches it the simplest way, which is rather simplistic to me, but he wants to bring peace to people individually, and basically with what the meditation he teaches is 4 techniques. And I use like 3 of them. There's the listening technique, the divine music he used to call it, the holy breath, which is the most important technique as far as I'm concerned, is the one I use the most, and I use while I'm singing. And then the light technique, which I've experienced. Well, I experience it every time I do the technique, but there are at least 4 to 5 times in my life, including the story I'm going to tell in a while, that the light was so incredibly self-effulgent that I can't even describe what happened. Words fail. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Words just miserably fail because there's just nothing like that experience. It's the most profound thing especially the first time. It freaked me out the first time. I was like, what the hell is going on? My mind actually came in and goes, where the hell do you think you're going? And it was this self-effulgent light that like I said, again, words fail. It was the most profound experience. I was immersed in light. I didn't go to a green field. I didn't do, any of that. It was a direct experience of the light. And normally, when you see the light in this kind of meditation, you see an orange, green, or yellow. I've seen all those colors. Orange, green, or yellow donut, right? With a hole in the middle. But sometimes if you concentrate hard enough, and it's not the easiest thing to do, but when you concentrate hard enough on the donut hole, it breaks to a pinpoint of light this big. And then from there, it just boom, and explodes. And it's like you're not in a field of flowers. We talk about that. Anyway, you're not in any of that. You're just directly an experience of that light.
Listen, I focused on a lot of donut holes in my time.
There you go. See?
But never one that had light in it.
Was it Winchell's or
glazed
or Krispy Kreme?
Is it a maple or?
I prefer my donuts overpriced, so it's Krispy Kreme.
Well, Krispy Kreme are local now. They used to be just New York.
Oh yeah,
the East Coast.
Now they're
now Krispy Kreme's everywhere.
So let's just jump right into there, since we're talking about it already. The situation that you experienced. So you were enveloped in light during a period of deep meditation, I'm assuming?
That's the only way I can describe it. And I like to talk about the first time because the rest of them I've kind of accepted. The last couple of times, honestly, I felt I was leaving. And I had to stop myself. Like, no, I don't want to leave yet. I could have just floated right out of my body and gone to the light. But, I got you guys and I got grandkids, so I don't want to go yet.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It was so profound. Every time I experienced that, it's the most profound thing. And it enlightens the experience as real. It's as real as it can get. If it's still my mind, I'm fine with that. I'll experience it. It's just my own mind. But I think that's BS.
Right.
So that's called the light technique?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was...
And it's something you can't reveal. Like I promised never to reveal it, in the initiation session. You just make a promise. And
there's an initiation.
So that's the end of the podcast. Then thanks for coming on.
Okay. Thank you for nothing. Cool. And we'll see you later.
Yeah. Thanks for watching my kid.
Happy Father's Day.
This is one of the reasons I love listening to you guys because you're so freaking funny. You guys play off each other so well. It's great.
So if you can't describe the initiation process, what is the experience of being enveloped in that light?
He can't describe it in words. It's too profound.
Yeah.
There's no words to describe it. It is devastatingly profound.
Yeah.
That's about the best way I could describe it. It's so profound that it's almost devastating. It's like, what have I been doing my whole life?
Yeah.
What the hell have I been doing?
So I have experienced
I've just been sitting in darkness.
I've experienced one thing like that one time back. If any of the listeners have heard me repeat this, I apologize. But like I have explained that I have meditated to a point where I felt like did I explain this on the show once?
I don't know.
I got to a level of meditation once.
I don't think you did.
I don't think I did either. Very deep meditation in my 20s where like I felt it was like not like a ethereal thing. Like I didn't like astral project or anything. I was sitting in a chair, but like in my like mind's eye, my head grazed and this is before I knew anything about anything. I felt like my head grazed a light source that was like hovering above the earth. And the second my head touched it, I had this sensation that I was like, what is this? I know what this is. I suddenly felt like I knew everything, but I shocked myself out of it. I was like, what the hell is this? And then immediately couldn't remember a single damn thing, but I remembered that I knew everything once, which is
Oh my God.
That's profound in and of itself because that's what happens sometimes because the mind is the real enemy of enlightenment.
Yeah.
The brain and the central nervous system are kind of the enemy of perception. There's this the book called by Aldous Huxley called The Doors of Perception, where the Doors, the musical group, the Doors, got their name.
Oh,
but it's basically Aldous Huxley taking a mescaline trip, right? And he describes it and puts it on a woolen sack, which is one of those old time tape recorders, right? He puts it all on and then writes a book about it. And he has this theory that a Cambridge professor came up with, that the brain and the central nervous system are the eliminative and not the productive factor in perceiving the universe. So in other words, the brain and the central nervous system filter out all of the unnecessary information that you don't need in order to deal with this three-dimensional construct that we all assume is reality, right? And that's the thing. There's a similar story. Arjuna, who is the prince in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Hindu epic poem, and Krishna is his lord, but Arjuna is his only devotee in this particular time frame, right? And he's looking across at a battlefield with Krishna, who's posing as his chariot driver and his valet, and he says, "I can't fight these people. I see my brothers and my cousins, my half brothers, my cousins across the field. I can't do this." Throws down I will not fight. Throws down his weapons. And Krishna stops time right in the middle of everything, stops time to discourse him about dharma, the work that humans do on this planet, karma, the work that they're supposed to do as far as like mending things that they've done in the past, or responding to things that actions, because for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So he's stops time and for forever, gives him all the spiritual discourse. And Krishna says, "Are you ready yet?" And Arjuna says, "No, you show me your true form." And Krishna's like, "Oh, you really don't want to see that. You really don't want to." And he goes, "No, I insist." And for the millisecond, shows him everything in the universe that ever was, will be, and is, right? All in a millionth of a microsecond. Boom, like that. And Arjuna is so freaked out, he's cowering in the chariot. Just, please, Lord, come back. And Krishna gets back in his body, goes, "You ready?" And Krishna picks up his weapons and goes, "Okay, let's go." It's that kind of thing.
Something that Lauren and I have been exploring and talking about recently has been, because you were talking about like the mind being a filter, like an eliminative like element to our experience.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would that be? Why is that a thing? And, for these, for source or whatever divine entities that we're always talking about, if you know all things all the time, and even if we as human beings are able to like access source and have just temporary knowledge of all things, the only thing that can give the illusion or the element of surprise is the false sense of time and not knowing the future. So this thing that I'm always cursing and like thinking is like so unfair is actually like part of the game and kind of funny. It's like a divine practical joke to have to deal with this shit.
And there's a Hindu word that describes it.
Oh,
a Hindu word that describes it. Leela.
What does that mean?
Leela is the divine play. Leela means literally the divine play.
Oh,
like we're all in a play.
Right?
Yeah. And sometimes very serious. People get killed in this little play we're doing called life on planet Earth, and also it's called Maya, which means illusion, right? It is an illusion,
Yeah.
And trying to fix it with the mind. You ever try to fix it with your own mind, like not outside and say, "Oh, you have techniques. Let me try these." Regardless. I'm sure that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is, the transcendental meditation. Millions of people follow that, and it works for them. Whatever works, because you can't fix the hammer that's broken with the hammer that's broken. You can't. That's not a thing.
The thing that's interesting about all that too is like once and this is like obviously what our podcast is. I feel like we're always talking to people who have at least for the time being like access to information that we don't necessarily naturally have, but we could have if we were to practice more. But even in knowing all that stuff, like there's an importance to the human experience that we're all going through. And like, at what point do you decide to just engage in life with the tools that you have at your disposal instead of wanting and wishing for more?
That's the truth, man. That's, when Lauren was little, I remember her sitting, I remember watching Care Bears, and something happened in the Care Bears. She loved that show, by the way. And something happened in Care Bears. And she started crying, and she said, Daddy, why do I feel so much? I'm saying, and I was trying to apologize for her feeling so much, being an empath, and and I'm certainly an empath. That's what makes me so good at what I do. I'm an emotional communicator. Moreover, I'm an emotional healer, and I take ownership of that, because the most I meditate, and I felt this yesterday when I was singing in front of the Brecky party. This mom, for people that don't know, friends of mine, whose mother, 5 boys. She raised 5 boys pretty much by herself, and she's a saint. Her 90th birthday was yesterday, and I was singing and I was remembering with every breath, and that's what I do, like as a matter of course. When I did the World Rock Symphony Orchestra up in Niagara Falls recently, in the first week of April, I was just consciously singing with every breath because I know that gets out there as emotional healing. People are sitting there being healed on levels they probably don't even understand. They're not even thinking about that, right. but their ethereal body and their spirit guys are going, whoa, wow, this is cool, good for this, all that, Yeah. What we do as artists basically is emotional healing. That's what we really do at our core.
How because you've been a big meditation person as long as I've known you.
And a maniac as well.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like I said, I contradict myself.
Little maniacal, little meditation. We got Michael the maniacal maniac meditator.
I fully embrace that too.
Real. You're all the facets. But how has meditation, or like going back to your basics or your training or these techniques, like helped you through the years of like through difficult times or through your singing or whatever, like how much of it is a daily thing for you and how much has it informed your life
over the year? And this is like over 50 years now.
Yeah.
Like this December, it will be 51 years that I was initiated into these techniques. And I'll be honest with you, during the raising of you and Ian, and then later Josh, I didn't meditate nearly as much formally as I should have, probably, because I was so busy.
Yeah.
And it was just like raising kids is, you got 2 of them, they're chaos.
Yes.
They're nothing but chaos. And the sooner you admit that they're chaos, the better off you're going to be with them. You go, oh, they're chaos. Let's just accept the chaos,
Yeah.
And you do the best you can to try and monitor and guide them in the things you want them to be good at, the things you want them to understand. I mean, looking at Jean, your oldest, she's 6. And I take her around, and I don't have to say thank you. Say no. She doesn't. She does that as a matter of course because of you guys. She says please and thank you so much. That kind of thing. She doesn't just. She says, may I please, or thank you so much, or you're welcome. And that, but through no prompting of me.
Yeah.
There's no prompting. I have to do that at all. And you're raising both your kids to be polite and engaged humans on this planet. And they're crazy.
Well, our 2-year-old just picks up sticks and shoots people with them.
Whose fault is that, Mr. Star Wars?
I know.
but so like back to, because I understand, when you're raising kids, you're not as actively spiritual sometimes. I mean, we're like,
it's true. It's
talking
true,
about meditation all the time. We're like, oh, I need to do that this morning because, but it's hard.
This is soon as I met out the punishment for this kid. I'm going to take away something, then I'll meditate.
Yeah.
And the whole time you're sitting meditating, go, damn that kid. I swear.
Yeah. Now shut up so I can find inner peace.
But like, just in you've talked about it as like meditating while you're singing. Like, how does that work? Because I used to sing in bands too. And
I think we've talked about this before. the like, I'll tell you a story after this. Yahweh, the ancient biblical name for God, is a good jump off point, a good starting point for meditation. And it's similar to the technique I use, but it's not the same. So I don't feel like I'm revealing anything, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a two syllable word kind of for a reason, as is Allah, or even I am, like the in breath, or I am, that thing, even that, that's how you do it. And it's again, they call meditation a practice.
Why do you say those words?
Huh?
Sometimes I know you tell people that they're like, your dad was telling me about Yahweh yesterday. And I'm like, great. But also, why?
Because it leads you to a deeper place. When you use that, it's kind of like a mantra, because then the mantra fades away and you're just basically in that moment, in that meditation moment.
Is the point also
Yahweh
to be...
will always, all those words that are prompting you, they eventually fade away. You don't consciously remember it anymore. You forget it. You're just kind of like, oh, here I am. You're not even thinking that. You're just in the now, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because the breath, think about it. The breath is the only thing that puts you in the moment. One of the only things. I can't think of another thing that you get in a car accident, you're in the moment. But then you start immediately, you start thinking everything else. Like, oh my God, I got to the hospital, my leg's broken or whatever. But your breath is the only thing. Think about it. It puts you directly in the now. And here we are. We're right here, right now.
Right.
That's what Baba Ram Dass taught in Be Here Now. The breath is the one thing that singularly puts you into the moment, into the very now.
I mean, I'm assuming that's a form of the Yahweh practice. That's a form of like breath work.
Yes, exactly. And it's taught me over the years that I would start breathing and just like remembering my breath. Okay, here I am. And now I got to sing. And each outward breath is what I'm pushing out as emotional healing. Depending on the song, but the in breath is always, okay, here I go again. I'm going to be in the now when I'm singing. I'm not going to I don't want to think about anything else. I want to be able to, put it out there,
Right.
Speaking of singing, was it like your entire band in Jiva in the 70s? Like, were you all having somewhat of like a spiritual awakening? Because I feel like a lot of your songs were about not like, I want to party and rock and roll and like,
no,
I like women and drugs or whatever. It was more like face the light and like stuff like that.
Face the light, find the truth, all that stuff, which did not make us popular in the rock and roll circle.
Right.
Everybody looked like the Eagles. We're recording in the same studio as the Eagles. We found the guru. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, they're in a cult. Mom, your grandma thought we were in a cult.
Really?
Wait, how did you find the guru?
Yeah, I actually don't know that either.
And did the band form around him specifically?
Not necessarily. We had a drummer in Titan, my 8-piece horn band, which was a precursor to Jiva. And Jim Strauss and I started Jiva with Tommy and Rito. But Jim was the bass player and he sat up all night with our drummer, George Dragata, G Wiz, we used to call him. And G gave him all of this spiritual discourse about Maharaji and the kind of techniques and meditation and how amazing it was and all this stuff. And Jim was just drinking wine at the time. He finished polished off almost 2 bottles. I got really drunk. Wow, I need to figure this out. I need to, And so we all got discourse and we all started okay, let's go to a satsang, which means company of truth. Let's go to a meeting. Let's see what this is about. And the initiated one by one would just come up and tell their experience and what they've been experiencing lately and how they got knowledge, what made them come to Maharaji and all that.
What do you mean got knowledge?
Knowledge, the initiation process. It's the 4 techniques are known as knowledge, or used to be known. Now they're known as the keys. He wanted to take away all that stuff that made it look like, oh, they think they're special. They have knowledge and we don't. No, It's just the 4 keys. A lot of the nomenclature.
I need to narrow. Because I've never asked you this before. You show up to this meeting like a meeting, and
it's like you sit and listen to people talk about their spiritual experience, the spiritual discourse, so to speak, like the nature of karma, the nature of this, and it's pretty much what Krishna tried to tell Arjuna.
Okay, but then you say, "I want this knowledge. Initiate me," and then you get like a handbook or something. Like
no, you go to a process. You go through a process called an initiation. It's not a ceremony. It's more like we're gonna reveal the techniques to you. And a certain, like an initiator, we used to call them Mahatmas, which was a dumb name for them. But Mahatma Charnan, Guru Charnan, was my initiator, and he's still alive. He's like in his late 80s. He's still golfing. He's doing all the crazy things he wants to do and living his life. And he was my initiator. And he
tells you all this. We
sat in a room.
He tells you a bunch of secrets.
Yeah. We sat in this room and he revealed the 4 techniques to us when we were ready. When he deemed us ready, he said, "Okay, you seem ready. I'm going to ask you some questions. You seem ready. You seem ready to accept this, because the basic thing was, Prem didn't want anybody taking it and throwing it away, just taking it and not using it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He says, all I ask for is love for it. I don't ask money. I don't, if you want to donate, fine, but I don't ask for any money. I don't want to be that kind of person that asks for money for the initiation thing,
And then you would continue going to these meetings, and so that's why everyone thought that you were in a cult.
One of the rules was never delaying and attending satsang, which that one bugged me the most. But satsang can be held anywhere with anyone. We used to have band sang all the time, company of band.
What? Oh,
we tried to pretend it was satsang, but no, we just ended up yelling at each other.
Wait,
that was tight. It wasn't Jiva. Jiva was much cooler that way. We're more bonded through the techniques and through the experience of meditation. And then we started writing songs like that, like love is a treasure. Like, it's time, and I just listened to the very first album, the one we did independently called By His Grace. Mm-hmm. We wanted to call it, because we're guys that wanted to fool around, we're just empty. We're just idiots. We wanted to call it Anything Can Happen, and it usually does.
I like that.
That was the title we came up with. But they said, "Oh, you're not going to." Then Maharaji would hold like 2 or 3 festivals a year with anywhere from 10 to 30,000 people, and Maharaji wanted us to play at the festival in Toronto in '74, and we just finished our album, and we drove up there from L.A. to Toronto. We played 2 nights, and Maharaji asked us for a couple of songs, extra songs. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. That one. And I messed it up, and Raji gave me a big smile. Like, oh, that's cool. Because this guy, Prem, is the kind of person, when you look at him, there's not a thought in his head unless he puts it there. You look directly in his eyes and you think, there's nothing going on up here. It's pure meditation.
But in a good way?
I don't mean that in a negative sense.
Yeah, in a good way.
I mean, he doesn't have a bunch of noise going on.
Were you
just feel it.
At any point, were you waiting for the other shoe to drop? Like, is this a cult?
Yeah. Did I accidentally join a cult?
Yeah, you always, but it never happened. I was never feeling, now I have to give money, or now I have to do this, or now I have to do that. No, it's basically a F off.
That's funny.
You want to tell me what to do? No. F off, And he was only 15 years old when he experienced and realized this knowledge when he was about 4 years old.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Srihan's G. Maharaj was his father, and he was a big deal in India. He had hundreds and thousands of followers, or even millions of followers.
So was Grandma? Did she ever Grandma Ellie? Did she ever? Kind of go like, okay, I see that you're not in a cult, and I can get it, because she was super Catholic.
Here's why. I took her to see Concert for Bangladesh. I really wanted her to see that movie in the theater. When it came out in the theater, I said, Mom, let's go see this. And we saw it, and she was enamored of George, and just loved George Harrison ever since then. She was like, oh my God, this man is doing such good work. I have a pretty mom imitation.
Yeah.
Because Mom was super smart. I mean, master's in education while raising the 4 of us. I don't know how she did it. But anyway, I took her and the only thing she didn't like was Youngblood by Leon Russell. That boy, I swear, why does he have to sing that song? You know, and it's about, you know, loving a younger woman, you know. And,
yeah.
But she was, and then that was in 71. And then when we started to play around and get label interest, at one point there were like 15, 20 labels seeing us in one sitting at a club.
That's cool.
The place was packed, but mostly with label people.
Yeah.
Right. We toured with Fleetwood Mac, right? And the Dark Horse representatives came. And we came to the Santa Monica Civic, and my whole family and a lot of our friends came. You know, there was at least 50 to 60 people in the audience that we knew personally, you know. And afterwards, the security guard wouldn't let my family in.
Why?
Because he's being a jerk.
No.
Doormen are, that's their little kingdom, their little fiefdom. And, you know, it's like in Almost Famous, the movie Almost Famous. We can't get in the door, and he lets all the groupies in.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. They're crazy. They just love to hang on to that little bit of power they have. So I asked George personally. I said, George, could you help get my family in? And George came up to the guy and said, hey, let him. This is the lead singer of Jiva's family. Let him in. And you know, Alice and Mary and Mom and Bill, they all came in, and immediately Mom zeroed in on George, and they had like
because George Harrison was that was his label that you were on.
Was George's label.
Yeah.
Yes, and we were on it. George came away. He came up to me later, a little bit later after the family had to go home, and he goes, "Your mom, she's quite the lady." And it made me. I'm tearing up because of it, because it was just so profound. It was so
true.
And ever since then, Mom was just fine with me meditating.
That's
after
funny.
That.
Aww.
Well, George came along and legitimized it all. He put a stamp on it, and we're like, oh, a George Harrison stamp of approval. Hey.
Yeah.
Everyone can use one of those.
That BS, you know.
Keep talking. I'm going to get Lyndon. We were going to like wrap up, but I don't want to wrap up yet. I want you guys to talk more. So I'm signing off for now to go pick up a kid, but it's time for daddy-daughter time.
Lauren.
Daddy-daughter time.
Daddy-daughter time.
All right, love you, pal.
Daddy-son time now. You got to go get Lindy.
Yeah, I got to go get the kid. I'll see you soon, Papa Mike.
All right, I love you.
Love you, man.
And you don't have to edit that out.
I won't. All right.
So, switching gears slightly.
Okay.
You've always like you're the person that I learned or heard about like the idea of past lives from. So
right.
Because you talk about that a lot. You talk about reincarnation, and you talk about, you know, you've done past life regressions and
at least 4, if not 5. I can't remember. Well, there were a couple of just regular plain life regressions that I had. I was always a nagging feeling like I had some kind of horrible thing happen to me when I was 4, and I couldn't exactly remember it, but it involved water. And then I went to a regression therapist years ago, like even in my early 20s, I think, like when I was 20 or 21, right before I got the meditation techniques. And I went to this regression therapist and watched the rest of it. We were at the ocean for the first time. We were in Newport Beach, I believe.
Wait, so this is a memory? This is a memory that you unlocked?
Yeah, a memory of when I was 4, yeah.
Okay. And what was it?
And I went running after Linda Lawrence. That was her name, Linda Lawrence. We were with the Lawrences, and they had 1 child, and Mom and Dad already had 3, and Mary was in Mom's belly at the time. Around that time, and I went running after her and got sucked into the sea a little bit and couldn't breathe, and went to this place of like peace, and kind of there was some light surrounding me, and it wasn't a self-effulgent, brilliant freaking light, but it was like something was happening that was out of the ordinary. And all of a sudden, this voice came in and said, "You don't belong here. You've got to go back." And I remember saying, and basically a memory from traipsing up the memories from this regression session, that I said, "No, this is our home." I used the word "our," and I remember using the word in regression. I was like, "Wow, our? That's an interesting way to put it." And immediately, I'm back on the shore. I don't even know how I got back out of the water or anything like that. Mom screaming because she hated the water. She never learned to swim. She never learned to drive either. That's why we never had a car until Bill had his license. And I got my license about a year later. So, you know, Mom, every time I tried to ask her about it, she would shut me down. even as a 10-year-old. And the memory slowly fades away. But when we moved back from Danville, Indiana to San Bernardino, we finally got the house back. I'd sit up at night. All the other kids were asleep. And I don't know, maybe Mary wasn't, maybe she heard it a couple times, but Mom, more often than not, would just sit in her bed and cry over her situation. And it tore at my heart. Then I would look up and see the corner of my room, the room that I shared with your Uncle Bill, and this light would come through the corner of the bedroom. Happened at least 3 or 4 times. And it would do this, poof, and going right through where my third eye is, where your pineal gland is, through my head. And I would be at peace and I could lay down because I was so anxious. Consternated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Horribly, traumatically. So, all that stuff is trauma.
Yeah.
Listen to your mom cry and you're the oldest and she sits you down if you're trying to say, hey, when I was 6, I was trying to use my left hand because I'm naturally left-handed, and the nun smacked my hand and put it in my right hand. That's the hand of the devil, And I was being allowed to use my left hand in California for the first couple of weeks when I was in kindergarten. Then we moved to Danville, Indiana, and I went to a Catholic school. I was alone. I was terrified. I had no friends. Nobody else in my family was going to school but me, right?
Right.
And it was traumatic. I had this old Betty nun smack my left hand and put the pencil in my right. No, what? It was so confusing.
Yeah.
And I waited a couple of weeks. I didn't want to tell Mom. Then I finally said, I got to say something to her about this. And she's sitting on the stoop outside of our house, crying. I walk up to this and she sat me down and said, you're going to have to be the man of the family, or something to that effect. Like, Dad is gone. Dad's left. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? Wait, what? What are you And I buried that memory, and it didn't come out until another therapy session. And this was a regular therapy session, and it was with Carol Sales. Lovely.
Friend of the show.
All know. Yes. Friend of the show. She's awesome.
Yeah.
And it came out during one of her sessions with her, probably besides the regression therapy I had, probably the best therapist I ever had. Because I've had 3 or 4 since her, and she was the one that got at the heart of a lot of this stuff. She was just intuitive and a natural therapist. She was just good at it. And she embraces the light as much as anybody does.
Yeah.
She's just this pretty much pure soul now, all of her grief. And it's just, she's still in grief because Charlie, her husband, left us, and he was a sweetheart, but she's just soldiering through and just still full of so much love and light. Mm-hmm. She's amazing. She's an amazing human being.
Yeah.
Hi, Carol. I love you, Carol. So when you do that, when you do therapy, things come out. You start to prompt your own mind about things and start remembering stuff. That's one of the reasons I went to regression therapy for the first time in the first place, was to trigger that, trigger some of those memories. Because you keep stepping over and dropping and tripping over that subconsciously.
Yeah, well, and it informs a lot of your responses and the way you carry yourself and the way you interact with other people and all that stuff. Have you done deeper trauma healing in the last 10 years? No. Yeah. No,
I should. I really should.
Your daughter has some Reiki tools at her disposal. So
okay.
So that's
nice. I'm going to talk to her as soon as we're done here.
Perfect. But back to the past life stuff. Was there
in case the listeners just tuned in, I'm talking to my daughter right now. So there we go.
In case you didn't hear me introduce him as Dad.
Yeah. Right.
How does
the best thing in the world, you'll experience this later on in life, is having your kids be adults. And it's the coolest thing because your relationship completely changes.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is awesome.
I could see that.
And it's the reward for all the hell you guys put me through.
I put you through no hell.
Well, not you so much, but Josh and Ian. Oh, God, those two rambunctious little shits.
But back to the past life stuff. Also, so you've had past life regressions. You've had seen, in meditation, seen past lives and whoa, that was wild.
Yes. including you as another person.
Right. Yes. I was a
I've told you that.
I was a little boy.
Yeah. 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I cut your head off.
Yeah.
It's an awful thing to think.
Great.
I mean, and now you're my daughter. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Now you have to heal that shit.
You needed a redo.
Actually, absolutely. Because you weren't anything but some kid that followed me around. I was a ninja in the 15th century. This all sounds crazy.
No one would be listening to this podcast if they didn't believe in past life stuff. So
that's true.
Here we are. Like, you know, we've done the deep dive into. Frank did his like past life regression. You know, that was one of our episodes. But it's interesting because I think I always had this separation between reincarnation and spirits. I thought like, well, if you reincarnate, then you're not, what's up with like haunted, what's up with spirits? But now I've kind of realized that it's all part of this big thing. And also time doesn't work like that. Time doesn't work like that here. Yeah.
To quote your episode with Josh.
Yeah.
You know,
talking about what Ian said.
Completely did a 180 from his scientific mindset and went, and started to embrace all things that go bump in the night.
Yeah. How, because, you know, since Frank and I have been talking about this and starting this podcast and all that, I feel like you kind of were more on the reincarnation side of things. And I don't remember you talking about haunted things or spirits or anything like that. So how has any of this changed for you? Because you just, you know, you listen to our show and you listen to mediums and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I've never denied the existence of spirits.
Yeah,
I just don't pay attention to them as much as you do. Mm-hmm. I probably should. Like I'm talking to my spirit guys. I like to call them guys, not guides.
The spirit guys,
my buddies.
Yeah,
hey guys. They're my buddies. Yeah. Could be Lino, could be Ian. Who knows? I don't know. But I talk to them. They don't really answer back much. They'll give me signs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't, because I never gave them the time of day, so to speak, because I'm always like on the journey. It's like, I have meditation now. So I don't really need to focus on all that. Like, I know they're there. You know, I had an interesting experience that I wanted to relay. I think I told you about the soldier. I was meditating.
Soldier?
And
no.
Yeah, well, I was meditating. I was starting to feel like sleepy, and I fell into like a dream vision. I didn't fall over or sleep or anything, but there was this vision of on the battlefield, and it was an ancient battlefield. I don't know where the Hittites and the Romans. I don't know what it was, but some people killing each other. And I saw specifically one soldier that fell down, and another soldier stabbing him through the heart with a spear or a sword. I can't remember what. But that soldier who was dying, his spirit went up and immediately he freaked out. He didn't know what was happening.
Wow.
He didn't know anything about what was happening. He had no training on any like spiritual thing, no past lives. He probably believed in some kind of God that they told him was there, you know, but there was no real grounding for him. So and this was all a vision. And he immediately looked up and started to freak out. And he saw some couple making love. And that's what I'll do. I was a soldier in this life. I guess I'll be a soldier in the next life. Bonk, you know, and there he is back in another body. And it was like, and then I got out and then I stopped meditating and was like, was that just my mind? Or was that a vision? What was that?
Yeah.
It was a vision, you know? It was like one of these things like, that's what happens.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's interesting. We were just talking to our friend. She was talking about like a sign, and it was like so vivid and so meaningful to her. Yeah. And she was like, but this makes me sound crazy. And I was like, don't discount that. I said, isn't it more magical to look at it this way instead of like, it was just like my dumb brain or whatever. Like it's kind of, you know, following like the manifestation stuff or like, this is a sign and this is a sign. I'm going to follow this. It's all just like intuition or what it feels like. And it's honestly kind of cooler to go with the magical way of looking at it than just like everything is just it's all physical. This
That's
physical world.
I bought the movie breaking the science barrier, because basically science is based on the Cartesian model, which is all physical. Rene Descartes was a philosopher, a scientist, and all this, and he basically declared in like 1527, I can't remember the exact date, but he declared that everything was dead matter outside the body, and the only thing that was the seat of the soul was the pineal gland. That's what he called the pineal gland. It was the seat of the soul. Now, how he knew that, I don't know, but he discounted everything else. Now, the new theory of the electric universe is putting all that to bed, or it's actually raking it over the coals. The physical universe, everything's physical. No, it's not. It's all electric. It's all ethereal. It's all like minute particles. It's all membrane theory. It's all that stuff that we can't see, like that's guiding us. There are spirit guides. It's all of this is true. In other words,
yeah. Well, I want to be conscious of time, and this is one of those things. We'll have you on again because there's always more.
And, you could, when you finally edit it all out, it'll probably be like 5 minutes.
No, definitely not. Frank and I always get to have these conversations with you, but part of the, you're the person that put the idea of spirituality in my head a long time ago. I didn't start meditating until like a year ago, but I knew like, the person that I ask about meditating or talk to about meditating is my dad. So just thank you for one, sharing your information with our listeners, but with us all the time, and also our kids.
Well, you're welcome, more than welcome. And here's the thing. My concern about you guys getting into the next life from this one, or crossing over, I have so much more confidence now that you guys are going to make the right choices. Because people that say, I didn't choose to be born are pretty much stupid. Okay. I'm sorry. They're stupid. They haven't learned anything in this life. Because in order to get to the next life, or you make decent choices on the other side, so to speak, you have to get ready here. Mm-hmm. The purpose of human life is to discover the purpose of human life. And it reminds me of the Mark Twain quote. The two most important days are when you are born and when you find out why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. You're watching our kids, so we'll see you in like an hour, 45 minutes. Can you leave now so you can come?
Get out of here. Oh, God, what time is it? Oh, shit. Yeah, I'll be there as soon as I can.
You got to go. Thank you.
I love you
and
both
we love
very,
you.
Very much. You have no idea how much I love you guys. So
see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, brother, can you feel it in the air? You know that something's changing. I know you might not care. Now if there's any reason for you to feel at all, you should feel that you're a part of it, although you may feel small. And when you know that the power of love is coming, are you just gonna turn and run? Hey brother, do the best that you